Everybody for Philadelphia, 76ers, here they come. Philadelphia on the run. Stand up
And welcome everybody in here to another edition of the Basketball Stories? No, Football Stories radio show here on Facebook and on YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. I got Al Thompson over here, editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, host here of the radio program. Got Big Al Zafiri doing double duty here, co-hosting here with us and also producing the show. As always, we do got a jam-packed one coming up. We have the Invisible Man himself from
Clint
Deadpool
Eastwood.
2. We'll be joining the show in a little bit as well.
I feel like Clint Eastwood right now.
Hey, man, why not, right? So it's going to be an awesome one, though. Going to have a great show. But before we get to it, I'm going to toss over to Al real quick for a quick word.
That's right. Teamwork makes dream work. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is a boutique brokerage in Mullica Hill, New Jersey that works as a team, and they service all areas of southern New Jersey, including Atlantic, Burlington, Camden, Cape May, Cumberland, Gloucester, and Salem counties. The South Jersey real estate market is on fire right now, and the real estate market is up 16% nationally, according to the National Association of Realtors. At Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, we have a number of buyers in waiting looking to move into their new dream home. Our sellers are receiving multiple offers and getting top dollar for their home. Recently, they've seen homes get $20,000 over asking price. No home is too big or too small for this brokerage. And get this, Nancy says your home sold guaranteed, or she'll buy it if you agree with her on the terms and conditions that apply. If you are thinking about selling your home, now is the time. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 to speak with one of their highly trained professionals. And welcome to Football Series Facebook Live. Like Matt was saying, we got Rock Hoffman, Matt Santoleri, Al Zafiri here right now at 7 o'clock. We're going to have Dr. Sean McMillan will be on, talk about a number of cool things.
Yeah.
Not all of football. It's the off season technically, and we're going to have at 6:30 at the bottom of the hour camp director Ray Lowry, a great running back from Kingsway in New Jersey as a high school player, and then he went on to star at Ray Lowry went on to star at Old Dominion, and he's gotten some NFL tryout camps. He's a good player.
Yeah,
and he has a big camp this weekend, First Down Performance Camp and Combine. And he's got an amazing list of guest coaches and a full roster. He's got a ton of kids coming out there, high school players and grade school players. He does one day with high school and the second day with kids, like at grade school.
It's awesome, man.
Really well done. It's all public schools, pretty much, which I love. And he's not charging you $8,000 for a week.
It's only $7,900.
But anyway, so lots to talk about. Of course, the Sixers. And I have a quick little story about that jingle. Years ago, a long time ago, G Love and Special Sauce. Have you ever heard of that artist from here in the Philadelphia area?
I have not, personally.
Who hasn't?
You heard of him.
Apparently you haven't.
I have not, yeah, so here I am.
Yeah, he actually played basketball for Chestnut Hill Academy. He's a tall guy, but a tremendous artist. And he did one of his songs, Cold Beverages, was used for a beer commercial.
I like cold beverages.
Yeah, was used for a Coors commercial. But, and so but he's a really good musician, and he was making this album. He's a big, obviously he played basketball in high school. He's a big Sixers fan, and he actually played a concert there, one of those ones where you're on the floor, post-game concerts, and he played a concert there once. And on one of his records, on one of his earlier albums, he was doing a song called, I'm trying to think of it right now as I'm talking, it'll be Shootin' Hoops was the name of the song. And it's him and it's a silly song about schoolyard basketball, but he's bringing up all the great names of the Sixers during it. And he wanted to use the Sixers jingle in it. And somebody from the studio, I think it was being done by Phil and Joe Nicolo, or from Archbishop Carroll. They are incredible producers from Studio 4 and Rough House Records. They called me because I have the local band show on Saturday nights, and I have this massive library from 50 years old of all these artists from the Philly area. And they asked me if I knew who, and I was a season ticket holder for the Sixers. But they had changed ownership, and there was so much turnover there. They didn't know who to call, and even the Sixers didn't know who to call to see to get the rights to use the song, the the jingle as part of like a little bridge. You know, it's hip hop does it all the
Oh,
time,
100%,
right?
yeah.
So
Everybody samples everything in hip hop. I
but
mean, it's one of the cool
they were
things
to
about
sample it. So, but nobody knew who wrote it. The Sixers didn't even know who wrote it.
Wow.
That's
That's pretty incredible on that end, you know, that like nobody in the Sixers.
But the
organization-
the song didn't exist for decades. It wasn't played at Sixers games like you hear it now.
Oh, yeah.
It just went dark for decades, and then they brought it back. You know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and they play it after every win. And this jingle, and I guess they own it now. I mean, they waited long ago. Maybe they found the owner. I don't know, but at the time, it was a pretty funny thing to get a phone call about. You know, about this jingle.
About the jingle, yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's
I'm
funny.
like, sorry about that, guys. They're like in the studio. They were like, do you know anybody who owns this song? And I'm like, no idea. So anyway, the Eagles, of course, they came up with you have it on your little notes I sent you. They have a modified off-season schedule.
Yep.
And the way it was announced, it was like they're just refusing to come to the NovaCare. The way it was the headlines that were read on a lot of national and local, and even on the internet, I thought were kind of misleading. That the Eagles voted not to have any mini camp and no 7-on-7 drills. And then you see what they're going to do, and they're actually there.
Yeah.
So they're conducting phase 2, which meeting on-field sessions geared towards fundamentals, schemes, strength and conditioning. Then the following 2 weeks will fall under phase 3, OTA rules designed to provide more time for players and coaches to work together on and off the field. On-field drills will closely mirror that of phase 2 this year. There will be no 11-on-11, 7-on-7 work. Now, I didn't have a chance to tape it and send it over here for the show, but Jalen Hurts did a press conference today and said that he admitted that he's not happy with it. And for him, for any NFL player, they actually commitment to any kind of a thought was pretty revealing. But he said, at the end of it, somebody asked him, how do you get better? You're a second-year quarterback, and you have all these new guys, including Devonta Smith, and Jalen Reagor. This is the first time you get to work with him. There was no offseason last year at all. He's like really a rookie, and he said, I'm not going to get into this or that. And he goes, but yeah, do I want to do the work? Yes, I do want to do the work. And pretty much he said, yeah, it's disappointing that we're not going to be able to do it, but they are there. They are training. They are throwing the ball around. They are doing things, and so. It's not like they're not at NovaCare.
It's not complete absence. It's not like everybody's on their own. Which again, when the news was first dropping, and some teams kind of are doing that, right? It's not every team that's kind of coming together and making a sort of compromise of sorts that it seems like Sirianni has worked out with some of these players. Which I mean, the one big thing you were looking at here is you got a whole new coaching staff. I mean, they brought back Stoutland and Aaron Moorhead, the wide receivers coach and offensive line coach, and other than that, it's pretty much a completely fresh coaching staff, along with a lot of roster turnover from last year into this year, a big influx of young talent that you're hoping that is maybe could have been on the team last year but didn't have a big role that they're hoping takes big leaps this year, or again, a lot of young guys who are coming in that probably could gobble up some big roles for the upcoming year.
Sure.
And so, having some sort of, connectivity, chemistry, things like that are important. I think it can be a little overstated how important spring practices are for the, the productivity of veterans.
With a new coach, you're allowed to have an extra mini camp.
Yeah, exactly.
And or whatever. You're allowed to have another round that other teams don't get. And then I don't know if they're going to get that, but they have this. And apparently Sirianni, according to some of the players, did come to them, to his leaders, I guess, and people he would consider "quote unquote" team captains, and say, I'm leaving it up to you. What do you want to do? We need to do something. And so they all got together and came up with this plan.
And I say, for what that is, I definitely like it. I like the fact that it was something that again came from Sirianni and the coaching staff, but like you said, was really brought on by the leadership of the players, right? So, that's the big thing when it came to the, CBA and them kind of, as players, the Players Association saying that they were going to be opting out of things like this. Well, it's only right that if they're going to be coming together in some way, shape, or form, it's those same leaders that are in the clubhouse that are making those calls to be able to get everybody together too. Because, again, that just shows the unity factor, right? It doesn't show dissent from a player to the Players Association. It shows players who are in the locker room who understand there's a huge task at hand, right? This was a team that was going into last year that maybe didn't have, Super Bowl aspirations, but they sure as heck were expected to do a lot better than they did last year.
Yeah,
they weren't
horrible.
expected to play as bad as they did to get their head coach fired and as much of the franchise quarterback out the door, all these other things that kind of trickled down. So I think, again, that shows, too, from players like Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey and some of those vocal leaders that are there in the locker room and understanding that, hey, we owe it to, not just, ourselves, but to the city of Philadelphia to be a much better football team, at least be comprised of players who are out there putting forth that effort. And that starts in the spring.
Well, speaking of Brandon Graham, here is from his Zoom press conference today, me talking to him about that very thing. Were you on the little committee that came up with all this? Here is Brandon Graham.
Hey, thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, what's up, fellas? What's up, fellas?
Hey,
End of
Brandon.
the year, baby.
Hey, Brandon, how you
We'll
doing?
get started with Al Thompson and Chris Murray.
Yo, Brandon. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think of the schedule that's been put together for the off season. Did you have any input in that? And also, do you think that the Eagles have done enough with this roster in the off season for you guys to have a chance of success this year?
Well, just answer that question, I feel good. I feel like last year injuries hurt us, but we got a lot of guys coming back. We got some new guys in here. We got new coaches. I mean, man, it's a lot. It's a lot of good stuff going on, and being in on those meetings, coming up with a nice little schedule to try to get to learn each other, learn the scheme, so that we can be playing fast by training camp. Man, I think we came up with a good little plan to make sure that everybody will be able to play fast and know exactly what coaches are looking for when training camp comes.
Thank you. And, I mean, that's about what every answer was today.
Yeah.
It was, it was
do you expect
nothing-
anything more?
nothing controversial at all, to be honest with you. The most telling thing was Jalen Hurts, but he didn't come on until later, like almost an hour after that. He, for whatever reason, they kept us on the Zoom call, and it was like about 40 minutes after the Brandon Graham one was over that he came on, and it was a little too late to get it over here.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was, like, I guess he talked about the competition factor, too.
Yeah.
And essentially saying, I'm not above the competition, right? Like,
You
there's
saw
a
it?
lot of people. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who obviously in the offseason were penciling Jalen Hurts in as a starter. And I think most people do believe that when week one comes around, Jalen Hurts should be the starter. It's not really looking
the
like
last thing
Joe
he's gonna do
Flacco
is
or anything.
undermine him.
But you can't undermine that, right? The thing that you want to hear from somebody like Jalen Hurts is, I'm not above that, right? I'm a second-year player. Why would I be above that? Why should the keys of the car be handed to me? I have to go out there and earn those keys.
Yeah.
And I think that's the things that you want to hear from Jalen, as much as it's, saying what needs to be said, towing the company lines of what you want to hear from the athletes. That's also Jalen Hurts' personality. That's what he's put forth from Alabama to Oklahoma and into Philadelphia here. Is that same effort of saying every day I got to wake up and I've got to earn my keep, I got to earn my job. And so I like to hear that part of it because we know from Joe Flacco's history in Denver and New York and in Baltimore, he is not there to mentor. Like, he's said it time and time again. I am not a mentor. I'm not here to make sure that some young quarterback can take my job.
Right.
I'm here to earn a paycheck and to win football games. And so if your backup quarterback, your veteran quarterback is coming in to camp with that mindset, well, then, of course, you want the young guy who everybody out there is rooting for to show that he's the guy to have that same mindset, too. And so even though
But he's
actions
also,
speak
in his
louder
own
than
way,
words,
he's
yeah.
pushing.
Oh, of course.
Jalen Hurts.
Of
If he
course.
comes in, says, I'm his backup.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that's what Foles did. Foles
Right.
came in and says, I'm his backup.
Yeah, I mean, but again,
And,
I think it's two different types of leaderships. I think there's a different thing for that too. I'm not a Joe Flacco fan. I've said it time and time again. I'm not a fan of his play on the field right now, let alone I think those parts of it, because I think there becomes a time where you got to look in the mirror, man, and understand what you are as a quarterback nowadays. You're not Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're not a guy who is an older quarterback that can walk in and win a couple of games. You are a Josh McCown. You are a Chase Daniel. You are somebody who is
Boy,
holding the
that's
clipboard
cruel.
that should be pushing the younger people forward because, one, that's kind of what you're able to do at this point in time in your career. We've seen you with the Jets and with with Baltimore and with those other teams. There's a reason why they've all moved on from you as a starting quarterback or somebody who they could rely on. You don't have the juice anymore. Understand what your role is because you could have another 5, 6, 7 years in the NFL if you understand that your role is maybe being a little bit more of a mentor, is maybe being that quarterback who can, get a younger guy that the team is looking to groom and show him the ropes. Some of that is like, that Brett Favrean kind of stuff, like he treated Aaron Rodgers. But even Brett Favre at that point in time in his career had a lot of good football left in him. That's not Joe Flacco.
He went to Minnesota and won games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He went to the Jets and won games. Like, he was
Went
still.
to the Jets to do some stupid things there
He
too.
did too, right?
Leave the texting alone there, Brett.
So like again,
Not anybody cares.
There are parts of that where it's like again, I'm not expecting Aaron Rodgers when Jordan Love gets drafted last year to be the guy to mentor him around. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers just showed he's still an MVP caliber quarterback. Yeah. That's a little different. Joe Flacco, that's not you. That's not this at this moment in time. And for this team to spend what they spent on Joe Flacco, I mean, again, it's just salary cap. I know it's just a 1-year deal or whatever it is, but it's like
he probably makes a little bit more than
he makes the same amount of money as Cam Newton does right now in New England,
which is more than Jalen Hurts.
Right. But again, so I mean, which is always be more because Jalen Hurts is the
second in the NFL,
right? Second-year quarterback, right? And then your third-string quarterback is an undrafted free agent. coming into this year at least.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens if they make any more movements there.
And they got high marks. If you're going to pick if they had to pick a undrafted free agent, they picked the best one.
I love Jamie Newman. I mean, he said there was the top 5 guys that were first-round quarterbacks. There was Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M who had at least like when you're talking about who could be the next Russell Wilson-y, 3rd-round, 4th-round pick. I know. Be that kind of guy who could, with athleticism, Dak Prescott even, like show that he can do a little bit more. Kellen Mond was my quarterback 6. And Jamie Newman was quarterback 7 for me. He really just got hurt like a lot of players, like Kenny Gainwell did last year, and guys who had
Landon
Dickerson too. I mean, but I would say more of the Gainwell because he opted out, and so you had a really good year from Newman at Wake Forest, and then he transferred to Georgia, and so that was supposed to be like all right. He's making that graduate transfer. We're now going to be able to see if he has the juice to really compete in the SEC. And then he opted out. And so it was like all we have is just that 1-year flash in the pan in the ACC. And so it was really tough to evaluate how much that was going to go forward. I mean, again, I'm a Notre Dame fan. The fact that Ian Book got drafted and Jamie Newman didn't is just I don't know what people are looking at with quarterback play. I think with Newman, you get at the floor somebody who can do what Nate Sudfeld did. And at the ceiling, you get somebody who's a little bit more athletic and can at least run your scout team and do other things for you that can replicate maybe what Dak Prescott does, replicate some of the running around ability that Daniel Jones brings, run around things like that. So those are things that are not only going to help you hopefully develop somebody to be a really cheap backup quarterback for the future, but also be able to hopefully win games during the regular season because of things they can do on the practice field too. And so I really love that fit with Philly just for all of those reasons. And I wouldn't be too surprised if going into next year, it's, Hurts if he ends up winning the job and Newman as his direct backup. And then they kind of roll the dice with those young guys to see what happens there. Because, again, the 1 year of Flacco, I think, is going to be enough for a lot of people here.
If he plays, he may not see the light of day.
Right, and I think that's the best case scenario. But I think, again, it's the things, too. It's like with Flacco, it's just like I don't know, man. Just the way he carries himself is like he thinks he's still smoking Joe Flacco who won a Super Bowl. And it's not you anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and again, maybe it's just because we've been, maybe spoiled with people like Nick Foles who have done it on the grandest of stages and then also are still the most humble of people off the field. But I think there's something to be said for that way of leadership when you're in that position.
Nick Foles came from a Power 5 conference. Flacco came from...
Well, he came from, was at Penn State first, right? Flacco was?
West
or was
Virginia.
West Virginia, was that what it was?
Yeah.
And then he went to Delaware and then went from there. But again, I
he
think...
failed at Delaware, then goes to a 1AA school, and then goes all the way and wins the Super Bowl MVP, you're going to be mindset's going to be a little bit different than other quarterbacks, I think.
That's fine.
I'm not defending
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
I'm just
I get you.
saying, I'm just saying that's where I think he gets it from.
Yeah,
Because he has a chip on his shoulder. Carson Wentz has that same kind of tone to him that Flacco has. That turns people off.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, the one thing
Because
is
he's a
Flacco-
1 AA quarterback.
I get you. I just think that there's a certain thing to be said when you have that mindset and you're the starter. It's one thing when you have that mindset and you're supposed to be, that guy with the clipboard being more of the collaborative helper in different roles. I think that
When you go back
attitude
to
can turn it off.
Kurt Warner was the washed up man. What are you talking about when he was at the Giants? He goes to Arizona,
Yeah.
loses 20 pounds, listens to the trainer. I can reinvent you physically. You're going to feel stronger because you're going to lose this weight. And what happens? He rides this wave. Really gets clobbered by the Eagles by like 30 points on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Comes back and leads the Cardinals to a Super Bowl berth and almost pulls it off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great game. I mean, if it wasn't for how good the Steelers were, I mean, he probably should have won the game. That
Well,
was
I think they were
incredible
both
effort. Both teams went back and forth. It was a really good Super
No,
Bowl.
but I don't think the Steelers were a great team per se, and they lucked out kind of that some of these other NFC teams. I mean, the NFC Championship game that year, if you remember, one team was 9-6-1 and the other one was 9-7. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't like the NFC offered up their best.
Right.
These two teams got hot, and they barely lost to the Eagles. Barely lost to Kurt Warner, who got hot on that last drive. Mm-hmm. And because remember, McNabb brought them back. They were leading with a couple of minutes left to go, and to this day, people keep laying it on the feet of McNabb. Really, it was the defense.
Yeah.
And Brian Dawkins. It says to this day, Brian Dawkins says that's on us. We blew
Yeah.
that game. So but whatever. But anyway, my point is that I'm sure Flacco looks at that stuff, and looks at a Nick Foles and says, "Man, you were washed up, and all of a sudden you come back." And both those quarterbacks were playing like Flacco did the last 2 years with Denver and the Jets.
It was definitely like that for sure.
I'm saying if I'm him, I kind of latch on to those examples.
Again, if I'm Joe Flacco, I mean, obviously I'm trying to elongate my career in whatever way I possibly can, right?
Yeah.
As long as, I mean, if I'm getting $3.5 million paychecks and I played the way I played last year to earn that check, of course I'm going to try to keep doing them. My big thing with that is just like you look at Baltimore. He obviously didn't help Lamar Jackson in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it was almost a breath of fresh air when Joe Flacco left the building.
He helped him because he pushed him to be great.
I mean, I don't know if that's the case, though. I think that was just one of those things to where it was like he was hampering the offense directly because they were stuck in between of having to placate Joe Flacco and having to try to, get the newer offense around with Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold literally went in such a tailspin from where he got drafted that they had to offload him to Carolina and draft a whole brand new quarterback this year. He goes to Denver. Drew Lock only starts 1 year, but I mean, we saw from last year. I mean, I was as surprised as anybody that Denver didn't go out and really try to get a new starter. They got Teddy Bridgewater, but that's again another bridge guy, no pun intended, for their quarterback position. Yeah. So it's like the track record of Joe Flacco. Every place he's left, that young quarterback that was on the roster was not in a better position after Joe Flacco than he was before Joe Flacco. And that's why I said when I looked at the signing and everything, it just kind of reminded me of just one where it was like, it just doesn't really gel. It doesn't vibe. It doesn't really speak for what they're going for right now because, I mean, you saw it in the draft. They had a chance to draft Justin Fields if they really wanted to where they were at. They could have moved up and drafted Justin Fields instead of Devonta Smith, but they had Jalen Hurts. They have Jalen Hurts because they were stuck with Jalen Hurts because they had to try to sell it to the fan base and the fans that they didn't make the mistake last year in drafting him in the second round. And again, not all Jalen Hurts' fault, but you draft Jalen Hurts in the next season, your franchise quarterback's gone and your head coach gets fired. You're kind of married to trying to make Jalen Hurts work now. And if married to making Jalen Hurts work has also got you out of the sweepstakes of drafting another great young up-and-coming quarterback like Justin Fields could, you could be literally doubling down on mistake after mistake. And so it's like, in that scenario, why throw another wrench into it that could possibly make that not happen?
Joe Flacco, tell us how you feel.
Yeah, man. I say.
Anyway, we're going to take a break early because we do have Ray Lowry coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll be back with more after these messages on Football Stories Facebook Live. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Groups, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field. Whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com. Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All American Gutter Protection. All American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutter protection and gutters. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4, is in Southampton, PA 18966. The number for All American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik.
And welcome back here to Football Stories Radio Show, live on Facebook and YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. To the left of me, we got Rock Hoffman, college football editor of Football Stories, the magazine, co-host here of the radio program. We got Big Al Zafiri, producing the show as always, but obviously Al Thompson over here, the editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, and host here of the radio program. Got a great show to get back to. Before we do it, though, quick word from Al.
That's right. And build your dream home. Incredible opportunities are waiting for you. The old saying, buy land, they are not making any more of it, is true. And here is your chance to own a nice plot of your own, to build a dream home or business for yourself, or buy as an investment to hold on to for a later date. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group has several land listings available for your consideration in various shapes and sizes in several locations around Gloucester and Salem counties. Check out these land listings offered by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. For the developer, there is a fully approved subdivision in Mullica Hill. This 8-acre parcel has been planned for a subdivision of 12 single-family homes. This land comes with the fully approved design plans for the infrastructure of the major subdivision of those 12 homes, with public water and public sewer on a cul-de-sac street. Build your dream home in Mullica Hill on one of 4 lots from 2 to 12 acres, all designed for single-family homes. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start your journey to your dream home now. And welcome back. This is Football Stories Facebook Live, and I believe you're going to be calling for Ray Lowry. We're going to be talking about him just a minute. And he has a great camp coming up this weekend. And I saw his rosters, just pretty stunning. And right now we have Ray Lowry, former great running back from Kingsway High School, Regional High School, and from Old Dominion. And Ray, thanks for joining us tonight.
What's up, Al? Thanks for having me.
That's okay. And how you doing? I mean, are you excited about this weekend? It looks like you have this amazing roster for both days.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Excited that the weather's going to be good. I was kind of worried about that, having some rain or something. So fingers crossed stays the way it is right now. So real excited to have this event happen at Kingsway. Got some good guys coming. Got some good things planned for the guys. Live stream, combine testing, all that stuff. So it'll be some good work.
Combine testing. So is part of the thing. Saturday is the high school kids, and Sunday is the youth camp. Is that accurate?
Yep. Saturday's high school, and then Sunday is the youth. It's all be the same schedule. It'll start off with combine style. So guys will run 240s. They'll do 2 L drills and then 2 short shuttles. And then after that, we'll get into some positional drills, get some one-on-one workout or position workout, and then we'll do some one-on-ones, and then finish the camp off with 7-on-7. And then we'll also be giving out MVP awards for the camp at each position group.
That's awesome. When I was coaching at Carroll back in the early 2000s, our head coach, Dan Bielli, had like the lightest finger in the history of stopwatches. He would have a 300-pound lineman, and they'd run a 40-yard dash, and he goes 4.9. And the kid be like, I ran a 4.9? And, like, it was really like a 6.3, but they're not going to get that. They're going to get a real time at this thing, right?
I'm sure the kids will love to have him out there then.
And he still gets kidded about that today. He's retired, but
I think he'd be an agent, not a coach, right?
But
I bet.
So, what are the combine? You said you get a 40-yard test for a real time.
So,
you can put in your resume to a college, right?
Yeah, so it'll be the 40-yard dash, and then the short shuttle, which is the 5-10-5 drill, and then the L drill, which is just the 3-cone drill. And
you'll have some 7-on-7s for the ball carriers and ball throwers.
Yep.
Right? I hate using the term skill players
for them as well.
And then you have. What was that? I said I hate referring to them as skill players, because then you're pushing back on the.
You make it like offensive lineman. Any idiot can do it.
Anybody can do it. But
we call them big skill. Call them the big skill.
Okay, big skills. And so you're going to have stuff for the big guys, right? Too.
Yeah. So while the skill guys are doing 7-on-7 and 1-on-1, the O linemen they'll also do 1-on-1 against each other, and then they'll do some we'll call it big skill alignment activities. So just do a bunch of like competition drills. It still requires like footwork and agility and all that stuff. So there'll be some good stuff with them.
Yeah. Any guys? I know that isn't it true that Brady Small, some of these other guys they're getting offers now, right? And this could add to their.
Yeah, Brady. Yep, Brady Small is getting some offers. Nasir Dale, running back out of Camden, he'll be there. He's got a couple offers. Got a couple today. And as well as there's a kid from Woodbury. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. He's going not like that, but he has offers as well. So there's a handful of guys that all have been recruited and has offers that will be in this camp. And like I mentioned before, like there's I got guys coming from 7 different states. So I got the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and then I also got some guys coming from New York and Connecticut as well.
Wow, that's awesome. And so if you have a guy like Brady and this the running back from Camden you're talking about, kids, and they already have offers on the table. Kids who may not have gotten that attention yet can come there and use those guys as a little bit of a barometer.
Exactly
with the eye test.
Exactly.
Right?
So, eye test. If you put up some good film against guys who have offers, you may impress a coach, and now all of a sudden you're getting recruited by those schools as well. So it's really all about the competition. And a lot of guys last season, sucks. It was a weird year for high school football. Guys didn't play at all. Some guys had some shortened seasons. So this would be a good opportunity, to get that get those reps back against other people, and to be able to put that stuff on film as well.
Yeah, I know. You can't talk to a high school coach or player that still has another year or two left. That isn't just absolutely climbing the walls to play because of what happened this past year. And it was nobody's fault. And then you live in different states that have different regulations and things. You just got to let it go. But this is a great thing. Who are some of the coaches they're going to be at the high school camp on May 22nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.?
So the coaches the coaches will be the same for both camps. So the receivers coach will be Jonathan Duhart and also Travis Fulgham out from the Philadelphia Eagles. He'll be helping out Duhart as well. Duhart played with the Lions and also played with me at Old Dominion. So me, him, and Travis were all college roommates as well. So he'll be there. Wow. I got Danny Collins. He's a Williamstown grad. Went to University of Maine. Played about 4 years in the CFL. He'll be there coaching the quarterbacks. At running backs, it'll be me coaching the running backs along with Will Knight. Will Knight was a football player at Delaware. He was an All-American running back. He's from Delaware, where he was the Gatorade Player of the Year, Gatorade State Player of the Year in Delaware. So he'll be there coaching, helping with the running backs. And then for the offensive line, we got Julian Davenport, who's a Paulsboro grad and a current offensive tackle for the Indianapolis Colts, and he graduated from Bucknell College. And then on the defensive side, we got Rob Roll coaching the DBs, who was a Delsey grad and a Villanova starter and captain, who also spent some time with the Miami Dolphins. At the defensive line, we got Leroy Thompson, who's coaching them. He's a elite trainer right now, and he graduated from Delaware State, played some time in the league, and also actually coached in the NFL as well. And he also coached in the AAF league as well. That took place a couple of years ago. And then one more I'm missing is linebackers is Sterling Sheffield, who's a Clearview High School grad, and again he also graduated from Maine, where he put up a bunch of great numbers. He's an all-conference player, a starter, and he also spent some time in the NFL with the Bengals. So the key with me picking the coaches, I wanted to pick guys who been there and done that, and played on all these levels, and also that are South Jersey guys too, because these guys there in these camps, they're going to be looking up to these guys, and just to see that we were in the same spot as them, same schools, play the same competition from these small South Jersey towns that get overlooked, but we made it out, and we made something. So I want to give these guys the confidence so they can see that it is possible, and don't matter if you're a sophomore or junior that hasn't been recruited yet, still got time left. I know me, I was under recruited, and I know I can say the same with Rob Roll and Sterling Sheffield. They weren't the biggest recruits in high school, but they kept grinding and they made it happen. So that's why I picked a lot of those coaches.
And Ray, this is Rock Hoffman. I was just going to ask you that was this have been something you would have loved to have when you were, a sophomore or junior in high school to participate in a camp like this?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to have this. I know back then, luckily I had the privilege to get invited to the rivals camps, but that's not the case for everyone. A lot of those guys get overlooked by these scouting services, and then they don't really get the opportunity to, put out their talent, showcase their talents against other people. So this is just a great opportunity for those guys who aren't getting recruited by those rivals guys and who want to, put their best foot forward against the best in the area. So that's why I'm glad I'm doing this for the kids in South Jersey and Pennsylvania area as well.
That's awesome, right? This is Matt Santoleri here.
And he's from Delaware.
I'm from Delaware.
All about your guy from Delaware.
Yeah, so I'm excited about Will Knight, man. He's best running back I've seen in Delaware in a long time, man. Out of Smyrna. I mean, it was absolutely electric there for them for his whole career there. So that was good stuff there to see that he's going to be out there showing them the ropes. And just with yourself, man. So I mean, obviously you played college, at a super high level there at Old Dominion. You end up playing, going to a couple training camps in the NFL, the XFL, the CFL. You've been around to a lot of different camps and have seen, the way that things go. What kind of expertise and things are you going to be able to take from all of those different stops to be able to put it together for these kids to, hopefully help them get to the next levels that they're looking to seek?
Yeah. So first of all, Will's Knight's little brothers will actually be in the camp too. We have two little brothers that are running backs at Palmro are in Delaware that are also going to be there as well.
That's awesome.
But to answer your question, So all three of those crazy thing is, all three of those leagues, they all have different roles, and they play different styles of play. So in all those different leagues, I had to adjust my play in different ways, and I learned different things from all the coaches and all the players from the league that taught me different things. So I plan to use all that to get back to the running backs and show them some stuff as well.
I guess you weren't surprised to see Travis Fulgham kind of break out with the Eagles this past year.
No, I've called that from freshman year of Travis when he came to ODU as a walk-on and earned the scholarship the first week of training camp.
Oh,
so
wow.
I knew then he was going to be special. He's on paper, he's the most athletic person on the field. Size-wise, speed, and then just jumping ability and all that stuff. So always knew that Travis was going to do some big things.
Well, is there still a chance? We're going to run out of time here, but is there still a chance to get into this? Can people come? It's going to be held at Kingsway Regional High School, 201 Kings Highway, in Woolridge Township, New Jersey. Kingsway Regional High School. So I got to remember, Google it. It's right on campus. They have a beautiful new stadium there, right?
Yeah, brand new. Yeah, it's really nice.
And I was over there and saw it. It's gorgeous. And I love all this stuff. This is a public school. And so I just love seeing the public schools, athletic departments or whatever, get better and prove that you don't have to kill yourself going to some prep school or whatever, that you can be noticed by college recruiters at public schools quite a bit. You were.
Yeah,
so for
sure. Yep, yeah.
So if people want to, how do they get in touch? If they still have, you said you still have spots open in both the youth camp and for high school?
Yeah, so as far as high school, there's about 5 to 6 spots left. That camp's pretty much filled out, but there's still about five spots left, and then the youth camp is still wide open for anyone that wants to sign up to that.
Well, that'd be. I mean, if I got an 8th grader or a 7th grader going to 8th grade, and Travis Fulgham's going to be there, and there's all these other great players that you have there, man, why not?
Yeah.
So that's awesome stuff. And listen, Ray Lowry, who we're talking to here, former terrific running back, outstanding running back for Old Dominion, and obviously a star from Kingsway Regional High School. First Down Performance Camp and Combine this Saturday and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Kingsway Regional High School in Woolwich Township, New Jersey. You can still get in. And again, Ray, I want to thank you for stopping by and talking to us here on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Thanks for having me, man. And just a note, the registration for the camp starts at 7:30, and then the camp starts at 9 o'clock.
You got it. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, good luck, Ray. I'm excited to see what Yamir and Wayne do this year, too, for Smyrna. Excited to see how they bring it up, man. So, good stuff there.
All right. And, no, it's a pretty cool camp.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is. And we didn't really go into his career, but he is the leading rusher for FBS teams in Virginia. At the time he played, there was only 3.
Well, we did a story on him in Football Stories.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, and ODU, and that Liberty has since jumped up to FBS. But he's got 4,080 career yards at the FBS level. And when you think, University of Virginia has been playing football since 1888. I think you covered them, and then Virginia Tech since 1892. Excuse me. So we're talking like 125 years, and he's the best yardage-wise running back in the history of the state.
It's an ungodly number of touchdowns also.
He did, especially because he got banged up a little bit in his senior year, unfortunately. It probably hurt him a little bit, trying to get noticed for the next level. But, he did have double-digit touchdowns in each of his first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's a terrific player. And
that's great running back.
He was with that whole group with Corey Clement and all, and we featured him a couple times in Football Stories when they were in high school. So I always tell people, I said, if you want to start out, covering sports, cover high school sports because you never know all these names,
100%,
right? And where they go, and if you latch on to some of the, Chad Hallett and some of the other guys that helped me out, kind of, give me little tips on, who's the great prospects down there in South Jersey and even in Pennsylvania. They've won Brady Small. And I'm watching this kid at a camp this past weekend. Right now he looks, he's not anywhere near as tall as him, but this kid's going into his senior year at St. Augustine and Brady Small, and he showed these legs today. he looks like Landon Dickerson, running around out there, and he's killing it, and he's going to be at this camp. So if you're a lineman, you're going to get to compete against a high school junior going to his senior year. What better way to get on film, showing your drills right next to each other? So these aren't. I don't know if they're electronically timed or not. If it's still done manually, but whatever. This is a great. That's why I wanted to bring Ray on, because this is an awesome camp. The fact that it's not one of these insane, prep things that you see on the internet sometimes, and they call it up and they go, it's $5,000 for the week. I'm like, seriously? And so the
It's $4,999. I'm just gonna keep playing that joke. I'm gonna run it to the end.
well, whatever. But I'm just saying, kudos to the Publix.
100%.
Well, and then like Ray said, he's been there.
Yeah.
So he's a chance to give back, and I mean, it sounds like it's a real passion for him to want to do this to help kids and to give back and to be able to compete at something he didn't have a chance to do. I always said he did go to Rivals, I think, camp or something like that, but these things have gotten more popular, and it's good. I mean, and especially you brought it up with how crazy it's been. The lower levels, the Division 2s and Division 3s, really recruited small. They have small freshman classes coming in because they have last year's freshman class that didn't play, and they have the senior class that didn't graduate because they still have their eligibility. The NCAA gave them their eligibility. So they've got like 5 classes, so we really don't have room to bring in a huge class that will be freshmen this fall. So that's going to make it tough going forward because you're still going to have all those kids out there who are going to be looking for a spot
for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
yeah. Play. The important thing is to play. And Taron Jackson, who the Eagles drafted, he was should have gone to this camp because he didn't get recruited by anybody. And at the last minute, Coastal Carolina offered him because they had just moved up relatively recently. And they had their big breakthrough year, and he was one of the reasons why they gave him a chance, and he blossomed.
And that's what Ray Lowry was, because Old Dominion, his freshman year was their first year at FBS, and his junior year they won 10 games, including a bowl game. So
I'm excited. I mean, it said just between him and they say a guy like Will, who not only have I seen, I mean, I've written a couple articles about Smyrna throughout the time of Football Stories too, and just seeing what he's done. I mean, he's the leading rusher in Delaware State history as far as running back wise goes, and he didn't just do that because he got the most carries. He did that because he broke those carries for a lot of freaking yards. I mean, the dude was just absolutely electric every time he touched the ball, and he's a guy who's still in college right now. He's a guy who's still going through the ropes and has bounced around a little bit from Delaware to Old Dominion back to Delaware because of the COVID regulations and protocols with the portals and everything like that. And so, not only do you have somebody like Ray who can tell you what it's like to play at the highest level and be invited to some of these camps at some of these other prestigious leagues, but you also have somebody who's literally doing it right now with Will that you can learn from too. And so I think that's just such a great thing to be able to bring to the table, somebody who has gone through it all and somebody who's going through it all, and be able to relay that message back down to the kids to kind of get them back where they need to be. And again, everybody understands, there's certain levels to what you can accomplish, but if you're not getting any offers, you're not getting anything, well, you've got to move that needle a little bit. This could be that stepping stone that gets them to at least that point. And then from there, it's, work ethic, luck, a lot of other things that go your way, but this is just a nice little leaping point for that. And again, all the names he named off there of guys who are going to be there to help these kids, that would definitely be something, if I was back in high school, I would want to be able to go to. I know I would have had no shot at going any further, but at the same time, to at least be able to meet these guys and get your hands on it.
And know where you stand.
And know where you stand, yep.
That's a big part of it. And if you go there and you can hang with these guys or whatever, the confidence you would get is just through the roof. And so where you're competing against guys that have already been offered by D1 programs, and I think it's a great day.
Yeah, and to just brag on, he mentioned Rob Roll, the former D-back from Villanova, another South Jersey guy that's going to be there. I mean, this is a guy that was a first-team All-CAA and all academic, too. So, I think that, I don't know how much they're going to touch on that, but hopefully they do a little bit to, hey, it's not just football. You do have to do your work in the classroom as well. And, somebody like Rob Roll is a great example of that. Received the CAA Commissioner's Academic Award as well in his because he had gotten a medical red shirt, so it's like his medical red shirt year. So that is an important part as well of the college experience, is to, it's a huge jump. Even
if you go to a Division III, Division II, it is a massive leap. And when I was strength coach at Carroll, there'd be like 8, 9, 10 guys going to play college ball, and then you would check in like after the first year was over, and maybe 1 or 2 were going to year 2.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a huge leap, and then the amount of commitment you have to do, even at the D3 level, Division II level. You don't go to Westchester with Billy Zwan and not have to. I mean, it's a football program.
Yeah.
And you have to commit a lot to the classroom and to the end of the program. And a lot of guys after that first year, wow, it's definitely
even the D3 level. I've heard some of the coaches talk, and they get calls from high school coaches who've got, the prototypical high school lineman. He's 5'10" and 240 pounds, but he's got more heart than any two guys on the team.
Yeah.
I got to get this kid in school somewhere, and they're like, well, that's great that he's not going to play. He's like, because the one coach was talking about it. He's like, 1 year. Now Mount Union obviously is an elite D3 team. He's like, their offensive line was bigger than Ohio State's.
Yeah.
So it's not the 13th grade. It's their football programs.
Oh yeah.
Their coaches are paid.
Really good.
Coaches are paid to win games, and when they don't win games, they get fired.
Yeah.
So there are great stories when guys like that, who do make it and hang with the team or whatever. They're the Rudy of wherever, but they're few and far between.
Yeah. No. And so I love this camp. That's why I kind of I wanted to promote it a little bit just to do the right thing. And,
and Ray sounds like a great guy too.
Yeah.
He really wants to
we covered him when he was
do
in high
something for
school.
the community. Yeah.
And
I know we always used to on the Saturday. We always used to look up what he did when he was at ODU.
Right. Sure.
Just about every week.
And so and he was terrific. So and when you see these guys after they graduate and they're doing things like this, it's kind of fun to go back and talk to them and see what we can put our 2 cents into making this thing a little bit better. So I mean, but it sounds like he's virtually sold out for you. But if you call him, get in touch.
The price is right. You can't miss those kind of things. I mean, as a kid,
if
I've
you're not
been
going
to
to
football
something like
camps,
this,
like different ones, and it's it's not always about even the name, but guys with experience, it goes a long way. You see it
this
with
is
coaching,
at a public school.
Yeah, you see it with coaching, you see it with everything, but having an experience as a grade school or high schooler to work with guys like that, and even having a guy who's currently in the NFL, guys who had great college careers, who had maybe small, short-lived NFL careers. It does go a long way just to hear and work with them, and it's little things that you never know until you know. I mean,
and when I was at the Pro Bowl, a lot of the drills and stuff they were doing, a lot of them were for grade school kids or whatever. But a lot of the players were there to do what Ray's doing. Mm-hmm. Like they wanted, even though they're still playing, they were there and they were really. You could see that they were learning how to run a camp. Mm-hmm. And because these things you can make money from these things and not gouge people. You know what I mean? So. Even if you're thinking about doing a camp, I'd go to this and see how he's doing it. Because if he has to be doing something right, if he has that coaching lineup is insane. And so at a public school, with a brand new stadium
and a great price. I mean, like you said, these other ones are $5,000, and they don't even have some of the names he's going to have.
So anyway, we're going to have Dr. Sean McMillan talk about some really interesting stuff that happened this week. I do want to ask. I know you're a fantasy football guy, right?
Yeah.
So you study more individually. What your thoughts were about Josiah Scott? Did I pronounce that right?
Josiah.
Josiah. It was close.
Yeah.
And how you thought about him coming here to Philly? Did you like it? People are saying he's just another
Avonte Maddox kind of clone.
But I mean, I heard Barrett Brooks, who I love, saying, well, they didn't need him. I said, well, excuse me? Last year, how many people were out?
Right.
I mean, you would have liked to have had this guy last year, right?
Yeah.
And he would have killed
And he's
for
young.
him.
I mean, he was only drafted last year.
I'm just saying, this team cannot turn away depth at any position.
Especially the secondary.
Not only is he young because he just drafted last year, but coming into the roster, he's the 4th youngest player on the roster, including undrafted free agents. The only player who's older than him, younger than him, that was just drafted was Marlon Tuipulotu from USC, who again high. You're looking at that high ceiling because of the age and the development and everything that he had there too. And with Scott, you're looking at a guy who played at a high level at Michigan State for a long time, was playing outside corner for them for the entire time he was out there, kind of like Avonte Maddox at Pittsburgh. He didn't allow his smaller stature to basically get in the way of him playing that position, but transferring from the NCAA level in the NFL, people kind of pigeonhole him into being more of a slot, sub-package style defender. Scott, I think, has maybe a little bit more juice in that way. I think he has a little bit more higher ceiling to play the outside if need be. But I think what he does give you is he gives you a fourth or a third, cornerback option that you can mix in, and it really depends on what happens with Avonte Maddox and the new coaching staff. Right, we have a whole brand new coaching staff that's coming in. Jonathan Gannon has, a huge background with specifically secondary players, and so we really don't know what his evaluation on Avonte Maddox was. We don't know if he sees the same player that a lot of other the previous coaching staff saw as somebody who could make up for shorter, stubbier arms and a smaller stature to play on the outside. So you see them go out and draft Zach McPherson. I think that's somebody who they look at as a versatile player who has the ability to play on the outside, even though at Texas Tech he took a lot of his snaps on the inside too. But you look at between two guys in Maddox and Scott who could battle it out to be your next starting nickel corner.
Playing Texas Tech in the secondary, you're almost like a soccer player.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just running all over.
That's it.
Where's the ball?
Exactly.
I'm running. It's like a youth soccer game. It's everybody go for the ball, and right? I mean, that's all they do is fling the ball all over the place, and so it's got to be one of the reasons why they grabbed.
And then the big thing too is you look at it. Like apparently last year, the team was interested in, and the Eagles were in drafting Scott.
Yeah.
But when it came up onto the board, Kevon Wallace was there, so they decided to go the Wallace route. And in between, when Wallace was picked and then Jack Driscoll was picked, that's when Scott comes off the board. I think it's one of those things to where teams sometimes kind of luck into things like this. The package price that they paid for Scott was very, very little. They traded a player who most people didn't even know was on the roster, plus a 2023 sixth-round pick. I mean, it's absolutely nothing to be able to get a guy like Scott in, who is at least a depth corner piece. I'm not saying he's going to end up being a starter. He's going to end up being a premier player.
On
this
team,
he could end up taking significant snaps because of injuries.
Well, it's also, think about it, just all together. I mean, this has to be one of the most exciting training camps we're going to have in a long time, with so many unknowns, new coaching staff, new players, like a lot of guys. I mean, how many Zach Ertz is not playing. They pretty much said he's not playing. They're going to move on from him. He's not going to show up to any of this stuff. You got Jason Kelsey and Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, handful of guys like that. But other than that, you have a lot of unknowns. That could be interesting, and I'm looking at even undrafted free agents that I've enjoyed to see.
I mean, how many last couple of years? What was the one thing? Yeah, they've got to get younger.
Yeah,
so they're getting younger, and I don't think you can discount perhaps a contribution on special teams also from a guy like him. So
special teams struggled. Over
that is another area that you can't overlook.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it's one of those things where it's just like there's like a no reason not to do it, and you might, again, have lucked into a situation where you've got a whole new coaching staff in Jacksonville, kind of the same thing that's happening in Philadelphia, and they looked at Scott and said, hey, all right, this guy's not going to fit into our system, so we're going to try to get something for him. And, again, you might have just got at least something for nothing, essentially. And, again, why not roll the dice when you get a chance?
All right, we have right now we have Dr. Sean McMillan from Virtua Health in South Jersey is on the phone right now. Doc.
Guys, how we doing tonight?
All right.
Good.
You sound like you're inside.
Finally, right?
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, and I think you're a baseball guy, so you love all sports. Don't get me wrong, but you work in the baseball field. So I have these two names I threw at you. What happened to that poor guy's face? Kevin Pillar.
Pillar, yes.
Pillar. What did when you saw that? I mean, what were some of the things that went through your mind when you saw just how mangled his face was?
Well, again, it's horrible. I mean, you think about the number of guys that have been beamed over the years, and even recently. Look at Bryce Harper dodging a bullet, a couple of weeks ago. It's scary because you can get hit in the hand and break a hand, and you'll come back. You get hit in the back and you get a bruise. But you hit in the face, I mean, it can damage your eyes. it could change the way you approach hitting. Look at Dickie Thon and some of these other guys in the past. So you always just want him to be okay, first of all, and then you hope he comes back and isn't gun shy, is able to be the player that he was.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me is he can talk the talk in the press conference, but when he's back in there facing somebody that's dealing at 100 miles an hour.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons why he did it was to get out there, talk about it.
I understand that, but talking about it is one thing.
Yeah,
standing there
yeah.
when the guy's throwing 100 miles an hour, and one of the reasons that the hit by pitches are going through the roof is because the guys are max effort with high velocity, so now they're losing some command.
Yeah.
So that can't make you feel too comfortable. This guy throws 100 and he doesn't have great command. That's going to have you, put your dancing shoes on a little bit.
Yeah, and if Doc, if you're part of, the Boston Red Sox organization part time during the, I think mostly during the off season, but if you're in a room with coaches and you're talking about this kind of stuff, would you bring up, say, you guys keep bringing these super arms and hoping that they can develop off speed pitches or curveballs and sliders and whatever, but still want to throw them 90 miles an hour plus. Is that conversation going on, do you think, within within Major League Baseball, that hey, you know what, maybe you should play baseball rather than just try to overpower everybody?
Certainly, it's going on. Certainly a conversation that's happening among scouts and internally with the team. That's not something the medical staff gets involved with. If anything, the medical staff is talking about how to protect the arms and elbows. So, having guys that are max velocity, max effort every time, that's not exactly a great way either to, protect their shoulders and their elbows. But, just talking to different people that are involved in the game and scouting, they're talking about this as it's not going away, because a lot of these guys that are coming up and these high effort, short inning guys, a lot of them didn't play last year. You got to remember there wasn't a minor league season last year. So there's rust, there's lack of control, there's lack of feel. I mean, if you're only pitching once every 3 or 4 days and maybe throwing 9 pitches, it's a really tough time for these younger guys to sort of break in, and they don't have the time, like you mentioned, to work on a breaking ball, and they all want to stay in the majors. So they're trying to get the K. And if you listen to what Webb said, he'll tell you as soon as it left his hand, he felt it was off. He knew that he had no feel for that ball as it left his hand. And unfortunately, when you look at the numbers, the hit by pitches are through the roof this year, and I think it's going to continue at this point, because you're not going to change sort of the mindset of throw the ball harder, and even harder.
Yeah, and I got an article from Fangraphs from earlier this week. In 2018, there was one batter hit per 96 plate appearances. That was a record. It fell to 94 in 2019. Last season, abbreviated season, was 81. So far through this year, one batter is hit every 74.5 plate appearances.
Wow, that's it's not like there's nothing like and if you want to protect your $150 million quarterback, you put a red shirt on him during practice. Mm-hmm. You can't do that here, right? I mean, what can you do? Do you have any thoughts on that? What can you do?
I mean, you can. I mean, look, this season is what it is. I mean, your hope is as the season goes on, guys get more control, and they work on things more in between, in between, I guess, sessions or bullpen sessions. But the truth is, you need them to get the feel as the year goes on, and you hope next year, when a lot of these younger guys have had a chance to work through a minor league season, even though it might be abbreviated, that they get more of this control. It's certainly an epidemic. It's not going to change anytime soon. So it's more protection. And it also goes on the hitters, though. I mean, if you look now, hitters more than ever are diving into the plate, trying to get that ball, and they're standing on top of the plate. So it's twofold. And I watch a lot of baseball, and you see guys, the approach is diving, foot first, towards the upper corner of the box, trying to drive the ball, especially the other way with the shifts. And truthfully, it's something that it works a little bit on the hitter side and a little bit on the pitcher side. And it's almost a game of chicken. Who's going to change their approach first?
And the other thing that I think keep in mind as well is for the pitcher, like you said, Webb hit him the other night. Certainly he didn't want to do that, but I mean, now he's got to think about that. And we saw the kid that hit Harper goes and hits Didi Gregorius the very next pitch, and they can't take him out because he's got to face yet another batter who I'm sure was not too happy about that. But that you have to wonder about the psyche. If you're a pitcher and you hurt somebody seriously, am I going to be able to do my job? going
Right.
forward.
Yeah.
So
And,
it is on both sides, the batter and the pitcher.
Yeah. And they have these massive investments in some of these players.
Mm-hmm.
We all know about the Bryce Harper contract and Mike Trout and people like that. And I guess I'm going to. Did you want to ask?
Well, yeah, it's so crazy because I mean, obviously, I would assume that you've kind of like looked at this too, Doc. But it's like it's just so wild on both ends of the spectrum because while we are pacing at an unbelievable pace of batters who are hit, we're also pacing at an unbelievable amount of no hitters that have been thrown by pitchers, and so. You're looking at it right now. I mean, currently there's 5 no-hitters. It's 6, but technically 5 because we're not counting Madison Bumgarner's 7-inning no-hitter as an official no-hitter, which is crazy. You're going to say that we have to play 7-inning games, but they don't count as any kind of like actual stat. That doesn't really make any sense. But like when you're there and like thinking about this and these meetings, like what are you seeing as really being the reason why we're seeing both of these hyperboles kind of pop up in this kind of a way?
Yeah, it's the true bell curve, right? So, small ball doesn't exist right now. When you look at these teams and look at the way that some of the offenses are built, I mean, you have power hitters. So statistically, you look at a Yankee roster or, a Dodger roster, and at the end of the year, you're going to have 7 guys in there that have hit 30 home runs or close to it and, lots of RBIs. And at the end of the day, have maybe a 260, 270, average. But the little things to get runs across, it's just different. There's no mentality there. And the problem is when they're called upon to do it, they struggle with it because it's not part of their fundamentals anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you're seeing is, the sort of, go big or go home approach right now where guys just aren't, trying to make contact. They're trying to kill the ball. And they also have in the back of their mind, whether it's real or not, that there's a new dead ball era and the ball's been deadened a little bit and I got to jack the ball a little harder. So all these things, play into it. And I think over time you're going to see some of these rib cage pulls from the hitters. And over a long season, you're going to see more strikeouts at the end of the day, going along rather those hit by pitches.
Oh, Brian Lange, who's a great trainer in the area, asked a question about: do you think that there's going to be at some point mandatory face protection by the batters at every bat, no matter what?
Well, you see more and more guys wearing it now, and I think it's actually a good thing when you see someone like a Bryce Harper or some of these other guys that are willing to wear it, because that sets the tone for some of the younger kids that maybe are like, I'm too cool to wear that. Softball has adopted it with no problem for some of the gals, and I think that it's something where you might start seeing more and more of it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just getting over the mental aspect of it, much like hockey had to do several years ago. But if you make it something that's part of a youth league and you move through high school and college with it, it becomes second nature at some point.
Yeah, that's probably where it's going to go, I guess. And but I did want to ask you about South Jersey native Mike Trout. He had a calf injury. It just looked like it was out of nowhere. He's taking off from second to third, and then all of a sudden he popped. And so what did you see? Have you looked into this? I know when you see injuries and things like that, it's something that perks your attention, right? And especially a player like that.
Yeah, so we had talked about in the past different types of strains and grading them. So as soon as they said on the injury report 6 to 8 weeks, typically it means a grade 2 strain. And what does that mean? It means there's some tearing of the muscle, but it hasn't torn completely. So at this point, they're working on trying to let it heal, but then also try to keep it from scarring up and getting tight. So the trainers are going to be working on mobilizing or massaging and stretching out the muscles that are there, working to get the swelling out of it, and then working to keep his cardiovascular activity up, even though he can't run, with things like bike and swimming, things of that nature. But it stinks because the guy was having one of his best starts of his career, if you can even have a better start than what he does. But 6 to 8 weeks is probably a reasonable timeline, and you hope just an athlete like him will come back closer to that 6 week mark.
Yeah,
I was actually watching the game when it happened, and obviously you don't know. Well, he just got hurt, and now they're taking him off the field. They were kind of speculating that maybe it had been something that had been bothering for a little while, and he was just managing to play through it. Would you think something like that, or just an all at once kind of thing?
Yeah, it could be either way, to be honest. I mean, there was no report of him having an injury before that, so he didn't mention that at all in any of his pressers afterwards. I mean, that's something where, look, you just tighten up a little bit and you tweak it the wrong way. It can happen. So there didn't need to be a pre-existing injury to get that there.
And then finally, I did want to ask you about the. Did you get a chance to read the modified off season for the Eagles? And if you did, what were your thoughts on it? What were your thoughts on it?
Yep, we did. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I saw the no 7-on-7s and no 11-on-11s. A couple things. On one hand, you're trying to protect your investment, and we just talked about that with baseball. On the other hand, you wonder, does it lead to more injuries? And time will tell. When camps open up in August, because guys just aren't contact ready, or aren't ready to to go against other guys across the line. So we'll see what happens. And I think the NFL is trying to do their best, and the NFLPA is trying to do their best to keep these guys healthy and protect them. And this is also a way to maybe draw some guys into camp. So a lot of people wanted to opt away, but maybe getting them in there and seeing it's not going to be as labor intensive. It's going to be more cerebral than anything else. Might get more guys into the complex. And for the Eagles, they need guys to learning new systems to be there.
Yeah, and there's been instances where the Jaguars, I think, cut everybody who opted out, and now the other teams weren't as drastic, but there were a lot of players who opted out. That the Eagles dropped one of their receivers that opted out last year. So and also a couple players who got injured training outside of the auspices of the team were cut. And one guy might be losing a $10 million salary, and they're going to sue him and all this. But so I think it makes sense to try to make it attractive for these guys to come in, train under their eye, and if you hope not, but if an injury does happen, the team's responsible for it. And you don't lose your money.
Yeah, and the Juwan James injury for the Broncos. You talked about the offensive tackle that tore his Achilles. I think that opened up a lot of eyes for a lot of the players who may be getting some bad information from wherever it might be. But a lot of the players, when you read some of the headlines, had no idea that if they were injured off-site, that they could lose their contract. And the truth is, everything you read from some of the legal pundits out there, no one really thinks that James is going to win his grievance. At most, he might settle for something. But it's written pretty clear in the contracts and the CBA that if you get injured off-site in the NFL, that's on you. It doesn't have to be something stupid like skydiving or motorcycle riding. They want you in camp, and they want you there working out at the facility. And in part, that's because the players pulled back a lot, saying they had to have more of these voluntary or voluntold meetings. But I think this is going to bring a lot more guys back into camps. Hopefully, it's for the good and not for the detriment.
All right. Doctor, awesome segment.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being on today. Dr. Sean McMillan is the Chief of Orthopedics and Director of Orthopedic Sports Medicine at Virtua Health in Burlington County and Cherry Hill. You're also the Assistant Professor of Orthopedic Surgery at Rowan University. Doc, can you tell people how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Al, we're seeing people in person again. Still doing a little telehealth if needed, but right now people are coming back and things are opening back up, and we're following all safety precautions still. We're in Cherry Hill in Burlington, and our main number is going to be 856-470-9029.
Thanks a lot, Doc. Thanks for being a guest on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, guys.
All right. That was a great segment.
Yeah.
And, I knew as soon as I got him all these baseball players, he was going to get all jazzed up.
Who doesn't?
And but I mean, the hit by pitch thing that's pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's like I said, in practices in football, you can put the red jersey on the quarterback and say, "Hey, you can't touch him," And,
and they did away. I mean, you remember Barry Bonds had the body armor,
right?
And he didn't care if he got hit because
there's steroids.
Well, he also had the big arm pads,
messing with you.
and baseball said, "Geez, these guys are just getting hit basically on purpose." So they did away with that, the body armor.
Who was it? The goalie named Snow. Garth Snow he literally had like a house on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So he could block pucks, and they outlawed his shoulder pads.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, here's my thing: in baseball, it's so different. I'm just looking at it now. I mean, it's the only game where the ball is flying, 100 miles per hour flying at your head, where there's no padding on. Think about it. At least hockey, after a few decades, finally said, yeah, maybe we should put some more padding on, wear masks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, baseball, you have round bat.
Hockey goalies never wore masks.
That's what I'm saying.
For decades.
They finally figured it out that and they're using, but at least they were using literally using their body to stop a puck. I mean, you're not supposed to use your body, but it's coming at 100 miles per hour almost towards your face, your body. So yeah, I mean, is it simple as putting on a helmet? But then I'm sure you're gonna get guys going, I can't see out of this thing. It's stuffy in here. There's always going to be.
There's always an excuse.
But see what you do. This is my thing, and it goes back to kind of like the concussions with football. The whole concussion thing came out. They had the whole the lawsuit and everything and all that. guys are still playing. NFL football is still around.
Yeah.
They don't know any less now than they knew when they. It's not like people are like, oh, I'm out. Some people have wised up and stopped playing too far into it, like cut their career short if they felt like they could. Megatron, let's take him for one. There's a guy who kind of cut his career short because he didn't. He knew he didn't want to play for Detroit, but
$20 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Well, and
certainly they've gotten. We know they've gotten better at treating them. I was just reading a story about Dale Earnhardt Jr., who basically his NASCAR career was highly impacted by concussions, and he got his first one in 1998. And he said, they just told me to lay down on the couch and put a washcloth on my head.
I was knocked out.
It's a migraine.
I was knocked out unconscious in a soccer game in the early 80s. And on a low bridge, where you sky for like a head ball.
Yeah.
And a guy ducked in front of me. And I did I wish it was on film to see this, because all I remember is right out of Varsity Blues, I'm Billy Bob. I'm laying there. Somebody's going, how many fingers am I holding up, I never.
He wouldn't know that answer anyway. Yeah,
I never left the game.
Yeah, but
the referee today would have said, "No, you're done.
Oh,
you're out of here."
If you say the word dizzy, off balance,
now the referees are trained.
Yeah,
the fact that you were knocked unconscious, you should have gone to the hospital.
Yeah,
eventually I did.
Yeah.
Oh, they used to use smelling salts. I remember.
I went to my
wake you right up.
chiropractor.
But I mean, they should have put you in the stretcher and taken you to the hospital.
In those days. I just got up and kept playing.
Yeah,
but you say those days, but I mean, it wasn't that far long. I mean, we're different in age, and they would use.
The ball was still square back
then. For Americans, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was still in the early 2000s, and here's the thing: is like, I remember a time where I got knocked pretty silly, and I was kind of like doing it thing with my eyes. It's kind of like I was trying to refocus, readjust. The coach looks at me, and goes, "What are you doing?" I said, Coach, I see three of you. He goes, well, hit the guy in the middle and get back in there.
Exactly.
And they shoved you back in there.
Because, the bone wasn't coming through your skin.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it.
I mean, even doctors up until the last couple
if you sat out, we can imagine what you would have been called if, back then.
You'd have been berated.
Yeah.
Who was the coach from Ohio State that got fired for tackling the guy?
Woody Hayes?
Woody Hayes.
He punched him. He didn't
SNL did a skit on him. Did you ever see that where he's on the sideline and the guy runs over and he goes, Coach, my arm got ripped off. And he just shoves the arm back on the guy and goes, get back out there.
Yeah, well,
that was.
But like I said, up until
parody, but it was,
up until at least maybe the last 20 years and more, especially in the last 10 or 15. I mean, the term, they used to say the term, getting your bell rung. Like that was what a concussion was. But doctors and everybody used to think that's what a concussion was like a bell being rung. You hit the bell, it vibrates, and then it stops, and that's the concussion.
And then you're done.
There's nothing else to it. Now they're learning, and especially with football of all ones, because there's constant impact over and over and over.
And we're born with a certain amount of compression inside our skulls, and some people are a little bit different than others. Eric Lindros, people ought to believe he was predisposed to it, and he got concussions if
Well, it's like anything,
he slammed the car door too hard.
Sneezed.
I always tell people we're like cars. We got parts, and if some cars the alternator goes faster than others, the engine goes fast. And that's the thing is, yes, people are going to be, I don't want to make it sound weak, but weaker because they're just not built as tough in certain areas as other people are.
What my brother was a driver for FedEx, so he got in and out of a truck hundreds of times a day, and he said, I would buckle and unbuckle my seatbelt 125 times a day with my right arm.
Yeah.
Last week, he's retired now. He reaching for a loaf of bread that it was like falling. He was carrying in groceries, and he reached for it and tore his rotator cuff.
Yeah.
So, and the doctor said,
we got mileage on all body parts.
Remember that joke about my uncle when I was in 15 years old playing soccer, and he said, always make sure you hit it. Clobber yourself on both sides. And remember when Dr. Conosella was on here, and he says, your uncle had it right before everybody else. And he goes, because chiropractor today would say, try to do it on both sides, so you don't tear up to one side of you. And
it's hard to
violinists
unbuckle your seatbelt with your left.
I understand.
Reach back and grab.
There would have been a way to treat yourself to not do that to yourself. And now,
it's not with a seatbelt, right?
But you see musicians, especially like a violinist who has the violin under their head next to their left ear. I interviewed Steve French, the great track coach from Carroll, and he went on he's still at Holy Spirit. He's 77 years old, but he said that he hadn't
graduated
It's actually going to be a funny line, but he says somebody, when he was very first, one of his first meets, he got talked into running the starter gun. And in those days, they were real, like almost like guns.
Yeah.
And they made
Yeah.
a really loud noise. And he says, I went deaf in my ear for doing it for years.
I know a guy, same kind of story. Yeah.
And he says, I lost my hearing because I was shooting a stupid star gun.
Swim coach, because now they use like cap guns, like the old school cap guns.
Yeah.
So it's just like a pow, like it's like really light, but enough you can hear it. That's why I say quiet on
Not
the
like a
car.
357.
But a lot of them are
not
now.
they used a real gun with blanks in it before, so
Yeah.
it is gunpowder. There's just no bullets involved.
And,
You know.
now they even do like a little, the light goes on.
Oh yeah,
instead
they
of,
have the whole Well, that's because it's all interconnected to the timer. My son did
their
swimming,
feet-
and I used to
their
have to
feet
do
are
all that.
standing on
So
it. But
I
I'm
get
just
it.
saying, here's a
But-
guy from the 70s was firing a
gun, literally firing a gun off to the side of his head. I mean,
he said, "I
it was
lost
just
my
no
hearing."
bullets in it. It was still just as loud. I mean, a blank is just as loud as a bullet. It just has no bullet with it. But my point, going back to the whole thing, was they still play football. Guys still, because they know they can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
They know they can, and have a short career and retire young and live okay. And guys want the glory. Well, baseball's the same way. So here you guys go. I'm not one of those guys who go, don't get upset. They get plenty of money. They could do, they could deal with it. No, they're like, here guys, here's the helmets. Here's the helmets with the cage on them. Wear them.
Yeah.
If you don't want to wear them, sign this waiver that you understand you can't come back and
Yeah.
sue it. It's just, and it solves that problem. So if somebody goes up there and goes, I don't want to do it, then they don't have to do it. But they understand they're taking a chance.
What for baseball, what they can do is make it mandatory in the minors, because those guys, they basically they're indentured servants practically. And then just which is basically what hockey did.
Yeah.
If you signed a contract after a certain period, you had to wear a helmet, and then anybody who would before that was grandfathered in. A lot of guys who were before that did wear them, and some guys didn't. And eventually they'll get used to it, and and life will go on.
And hockey's done the same thing with the face shields, because there's still some players like Zdeno Chara who's been in the league for as long as they have been,
I
and
think-
they're exempt from having to wear the face shield. And then,
Since the Stanley Cup was a
Well,
exactly.
Brian Dawkins had it thought out way before anybody else did. You know what I mean?
just get that visor,
Use the
make it
visor.
look cool, you
I
know
mean-
what I mean? Like,
Think about
That's
that.
mean,
But
man.
that's my
They
point.
have the do-up Anderson, Cooper. That was a weird little thing there. Anyway,
And you know what? You talk about that. They're in one of the elevators at Lincoln Financial Field. They have that picture of like the back of the elevator is a bigger than life-size picture of Brian Dawkins. And I swear to you, like it was like 2 or 3 times that I wrote the door would open. I'm like, whoa! I would jump back.
Yeah, those elevators are intimidating.
And well, that one is.
Well, yeah.
So it took me 2 or 3 times where I realized, oh, that's a picture dummy.
And it's funny, like kind of flipping the opposite side. Like with what I do for a full time job is, there's people I have to talk to about just a desk job. You're not getting hit. You're not getting balls thrown at your head. You're not unbuckling 100,000 times. You do a desk job, and you can hurt yourself just almost as much as.
Oh yeah.
You might not get a head injury
Done
if
it.
somebody throws a
Oh,
stapler at you. But no, like I always say, like certain things, like if you're working on a laptop, like a person works on a laptop all day, go out and buy one of the half decent laptop stands where it keeps the computer up and eye level. Keep your monitors up and eye level. Get like a stand for the monitor. Everything at eye level, because people like, I don't know why they like things low sometimes, because they can look over it and see things around them. Who cares if I'm working? Yeah, but like seriously, like if you have them, like. And I'm talking people who are working 8 hours a day. You're doing an hour, 2 hour show, looking down at your screen every so often. Different story. Like you can see right here, I got one up that's high and one up that's low. This is more just so I can see out of the corners of my eyes. But the point is, if you're a person who's working at a desk, get up and stretch. I actually, at my house, bought one of those tabletop table desks that come up and down, so you can stand up and still work. Dude, I do the graphics for the show before a couple nights before. I'm sometimes standing at my desk. Sometimes I'm sitting, and it all depends. And it makes a world of a difference. Just like a truck driver who drives all day long. They could never get in a car accident but have a bad back. Why? Because they're sitting for hours on end.
You guys are baseball guys. Phillies are 22 and 20. After the big, they keep Chris Burton from freaking out. He was probably ready to pounce last night when it was 3-1 in the 8th inning.
Well, that or he was falling asleep at the 7th inning.
Yeah, but they came back.
You should call it the 7th inning nap anymore. The way this team goes.
Score 7 runs in the 8th inning and come back and knock off Miami at Citizens Bank Park. I mean, what's going on with the Phillies? I mean, are they going to they're just going to be a 500 club? this whole year?
Well,
I mean, what are they going to be?
It's the one thing is look at the clubs all around. There's only a couple teams now over 600. It's kind of weird for May, with a winning percentage over 600. That's very odd for May, and I think that's just the way they're going. And I think Zach Eflin just lit up a home run, so now it's 1-0 Miami. But that's kind of an odd thing away. So that's why, like right now, there is desperate need for holes to be filled. I think anybody at this table, even a person who is not a big baseball fan, knows the Phillies have. Center field's still an issue. Even though Odubel Herrera is playing much better right now, he is not. This is what he does. This is what he does. You get, okay, all right, and then he's going to fall off the face of the earth again. McCutchen, his age is starting to show, so he's definitely done after this year, but if they can get through. So you're going to need some outfielders, definitely. The back end of your starting rotation is an issue. I mean, Anderson, he's done as far as I'm concerned. He should be done. They should be bringing up Spencer Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have him fail than watch the other guy who I know is going to fail. Like a guy who's been possibly could be a future player. And listen, just because they're in the minors doesn't mean they're going to come up and be the next, big player, big star on the team. But they need to play and get something out of these drafts finally.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing.
Same thing with Mickey Moniak.
It's like Chris Burden, our partner on the Saturday show. My daughter can play better than Scott Kingery. Well, she's not under contract, so anybody can say that Scott Kingery stinks or Anderson stinks.
Yeah.
Well, what are your options?
Well, that's why a guy like Anderson was signed for a 1 year
so
deal.
Exactly, they were hoping to catch lightning in a bottle.
It's the same thing with Odubel. They jumped on Kingery and Odubel right away, trying to get him in. And in hindsight, it's not a terrible idea. If you think a guy's going to be good, if you could jump on him early and get them at a reasonable price.
To buy them out of their arbitration.
If Kingery was playing well and batting 275 or better and playing decent defense, they would look like total geniuses right now. It's just 2020 and all that. Hindsight's 2020. But because and baseball and basketball are the two biggest ones that your contract you're in. You could sign a $100 million contract today and never be able to lose a foot, and not be able to play again, and still get $100 million.
So, and really, the Phillies don't have many other than Spencer Howard. Really, Mickey Moniak can come up and do as well or as poor as Odubel Herrera is doing. So, at this point, they've got to just try to tread water. And thankfully, the division is
it's where
allowing them to do that.
Well, and I said it's all around baseball, and that was my point to the over 600 teams.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. So the other problem falls with that is a lot of teams feel like they're still in it. So there's trade possibilities is going to be slim to none.
Well, that's now. I mean, you've got a ways
I'm just
to
saying
go
to make a difference now.
before the deadline. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you hope you can tread water and not, that somebody doesn't run away with the division. And like I said, they're cooperating. Nobody's running away with the division. And then try to make some moves a little bit later on. But then the other side of the coin is that you really don't have a lot to make moves with. Mm-hmm. Or they'd be here, contributing to this roster right now. So they've got to figure out something to try and like you said.
Who on this team, pitching-wise, you think has a chance of kind of coming alive and going on a run? Anybody?
Sheesh. Other than the guys at the top that you're kind of expecting to be those guys. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody who's going to be able to again just kind of step out there and do that. I think the big difference maker hopefully for them is getting Archie Bradley back and seeing what he could possibly do.
Well, he is back.
That's what I'm saying. Getting him back, they just got him back. Though I'm saying just getting him back.
He got a win last night.
Yeah, maybe he could push it a little further, especially from the bullpen spot. I mean, that's really the only guy other than that. I mean, that's about it. Like you said, other than the Spencer Howards and other guys that at least are, they're unknowns in a way where, who knows, right? Like they could bring it, they could not. But like Al was saying, it's better to go with the unknown that has a chance of surprise than it is to go with the guy who you're getting whatever.
That guy's ceiling, but you don't know the newcomer's ceiling.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a guy like Vince Velasquez, his last couple starts, he's been great. But everybody's waiting.
Let's see how this
waiting
goes.
For
shoe drop
for that
exactly.
seven run
first inning.
Well, that's Vinny V. I mean, that's why what we said when he was in the bullpen, don't give him multiple innings because he's very fragile. He's a sliding line that you got to stop. I always tell people for guys who played Madden, remember you used to kick the ball, you had to stop that line right in the middle. He's the kind of guy. If you're too far left, too far right. So if he's doing too good, he gets too lax. If he's doing too bad, he gets in his own head, and then he gives up whatever. And and when he falls apart gloriously. Like it's amazing when he falls apart.
Before we fall apart here, we have to take a break. We'll be back to talk about the Sixers for the rest of the show here on Football Stories Facebook Live. Owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field. Whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs. Offering the latest techniques and non-invasive procedures, their fellowship-trained specialists will get you back in action. With locations across South Jersey, they're close to home, providing the premier care you expect and deserve. Call or text 856-690-1616 or visit their website at poasnj.com to schedule an appointment. That website address again is poasnj.com. Football Stories Facebook Live would like to welcome to its family of advertisers All-American Gutter Protection. All-American Gutter Protection is new to the Delaware Valley, but hardly new to gutter protection and gutters. Located at 975 J. Moore Road, Suite number 4, is in Southampton, PA 18966. The number for All-American Gutter Protection is 888-323-8090.
And welcome back here to Football Stories, the radio show, live on Facebook and YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. To the left of me, got Rock Hoffman.
Hello.
College football editor of Football Stories, the magazine, our co-host here of the radio program. We got Al Thompson over here, editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program. And Big Al Zafiri doing double duty there at co-host and always producing the show. Got a great rest of the show to get to. Before we do, to remind you guys that work and play from home surrounded in luxury and privacy in a South Jersey premier luxury home listed by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. These are dream homes that have it all, designed with luxury and entertaining in mind, with recreation areas, home offices, and backyard oasis with in-ground pools, hot tubs, and more. There's a gorgeous 5,700 square foot Mediterranean villa, which boasts a first-floor master bedroom suite, custom bar, finished basement with theater room, gym, in-ground pool, and spa solar panels, all on 7.88 private acres. Another incredible luxury home boasting 4,958 square feet with 6 bedrooms, 6 full bathrooms, and a finished walkout basement that will make you feel like you are in your very own private castle. There's also a custom ranch home offering over 4,000 square feet of luxury with 4 fireplaces on 26 acres and its very own putting green. Conveniently located within 30 minutes of Philadelphia, less than 2 hours of downtown Manhattan. For more information, call Nancy Qualic Real Estate Group, 856-478-6562, or go to www.southjerseyteam.com. And over to you, Al.
All right. Obviously, the Sixers last week finished with a record of 49-23, just one short of 50 wins. But it's obviously 10 games less this year, so I guess it's the equivalent of a 56 win season. If they were 7-3, I think would be fair.
Yeah.
If they had the extra 10 games, and so that
Even
would
if you split them. You're still a 55 game,
54 win game.
54 win. Yeah.
So I mean, they were an elite team by any barometer, and so. They go in with the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The Sixers will face either the Washington Wizards or the Indiana Pacers in the first round. The 7-game series gets started on Sunday, and Boston.
It took care of business against
50
Washington.
Points. And they don't have to play a second game. They're in.
They're in.
Yeah.
We'll see how far they get because, it was like a brick wall regardless if they were running into Brooklyn or Philly more than likely there at the 7 or the 8 seed. Brooklyn gives them at least a fighting chance right now just because of what we've talked about in the shows leading up with Brooklyn still trying to figure out everything, getting everybody back and on the same page. They might have caught them at a good spot, whereas though Philly is rearing up and ready to kind of compete and make their Eastern Conference Finals run. So maybe they got the better break on that end, at least the more entertaining break, because you're going to have Kyrie Irving stepping back into the Garden. We'll see how that goes for him and his psyche and just fans kind of letting out some frustration. So I think we'll see some fun games regardless. If Jason Tatum could score 50 points, maybe steal a game or two against Brooklyn, and at least
he didn't even break a sweat, it seemed. There were people who said, I had to check my phone to look at the box score to see if that was right.
Yeah,
I mean, just like obviously it's 50 points. You're like, where did it come from?
And the Sixers don't want him. He was gross.
Yeah,
I know.
It's that Kobe kind of mentality where it's like you're out there, you're doing what you're doing, and every single time it's just calm, cool, and collected, almost assassin-like demeanor, and that's kind of what Tatum has. It's just unfortunate that with the wrist injury to Jaylen Brown and Kemba, going up and down, mostly down most of the season because of his knee injury. There's really not that Robin who can play to his Batman. He played well in that game for sure, but it seems like with Kemba, it's like you get that game and then you're going to get something downwards. And again, it's just unfortunate that's where he's at in his career right now, but it just is what it is. So the Celtics more than likely are first round and out. I think for them, the important thing is getting some of the young guys some minutes and get them some experience because come next year, a lot of those younger players, the 2 guys they drafted this year and before, will end up being key members of their rotation with hopefully bigger leaps from Tatum and Brown and the rest of the group.
And to be honest with you, Washington looked like they just didn't want to be there.
It was rough for them.
Westbrook looked horrible. I mean, in the second half, he had 6 points, 0 assists, and like 1 rebound.
Yeah.
I mean, he just didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a really good season,
This is where his
too.
rep comes from.
Yeah.
Playoff rep. You know what? He just doesn't have that. I say the same thing about James Harden. Mm-hmm. He gets towards the ends where you've got to step up, and they've historically not come through.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I do expect them to be the play-in team that plays Philadelphia
You think
there.
Washington is?
I think Washington will end up winning that game, yeah.
Oh, I think Indiana's going to kill them.
I look at guys like Bradley Beal and Westbrook, and again, I look at Indiana. Indiana has some really good players. Sabonis is really good, and they have some guys who can hold it. But in a big game situation, I'm going to lean on those guys so I know can fill it up 40 points, 45
Bradley
points,
Beal's going to be
and be able
all
to
in
do a takeover
for their the second game.
Mm-hmm.
But Westbrook, I mean, he didn't show anything the other night.
That's it. It was a rough
Shocking.
game for him. I mean, and that's the thing with Westbrook. That's the experience. It's like he, like you said, with the 0 assist, tends to almost think of himself as being the guy who he was 4 or 5 years ago, who can take over at will any point in time in the game. And that's not really his game right now. I think you're going to see them off of that loss to Boston, which they were leading at halftime still. So it wasn't like the Washington just kind of, didn't show up ready to play. It was just the second half and the takeover of Tatum kind of pulled them out of the game as much as they pulled themselves out. I think you're going to see them have a pretty level-headed approach in that game. Again, doesn't matter in the grand scheme. I think you're going to end up seeing, obviously the Sixers roll 4 or 5 games at absolute worst, and then the winner of Atlanta and New York, which, you're going to either see a young upstart team in Atlanta who, again, has some good young core pieces, but most people would say they're not ready to actually compete in the playoffs, and New York, who's in a similar way, but at least has more grit and grind and, some savvy to their game that might be able to steal a game or two. But I think that's the series I'm probably more likely looking forward
Sixers
to.
avoid playing Miami.
Yeah. That's great for them.
Yeah, it really was, the way it kind of worked out, that they ended up the 6th seed. So, and Milwaukee has to play. That's going to be a tough out for them in the first round. It really is. And they're going to, everybody's saying Giannis and all this stuff, and they're like a force in the East. I don't see it. And
they're supposed to be the force last year in the Eastern Conference, and what happened when they ran into the Heat in the bubble, right? So, it's a big one for them. I mean, again, that's why I look at like some of the stuff in this, this Eastern Conference, and it's like it's gonna be fun to see, some of those storylines kind of play each other out, especially because at the top between Brooklyn and and Philly, it's new blood, right? I mean, somebody posted the screen grabs of it, and it was like, just not too long ago, both these teams were 14 and 15 in the Eastern Conference as being the worst teams in the Eastern Conference, going through the the process rebuild. Brooklyn having to try to get out from the incredible just absolute ransacking that Danny Ainge did to them, trading Pierce and KG, aging veterans, for all of their first round draft picks for the next 5 years, and then to see these two teams rebound in this way to be the 1 and the 2 seed and going into this with fresh eyes, at least you're going to see, I think, a new representative from the Eastern Conference that we haven't seen, in some time. And I think that's an exciting thing for basketball fans. Just like tonight with the play-in game with, the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers. I mean, you've got LeBron and Steph
if you're stuck
dueling.
with a play-in game, you couldn't ask for a better marquee attraction.
That's it, I mean.
This was like a conference finals, like, couple of years ago.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And but I think Golden State could do a lot of damage in this playoffs.
They could.
I think they're going to win tonight.
If Bron gets knocked out of the
oh man,
he's hurting. He's hurting.
Somebody get the tissues now. The ambulance is on its way if that happens.
Steph Curry is like a shark smelling the blood. He's going to go up there. He's going to score 60, 70, 80 points tonight. He doesn't. They're going to say, "Hey, just do whatever you want."
I mean, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, he averaged 32 points, for the entire year. Was just absolutely everything for the Warriors to kind of drag a team that, again, without Klay Thompson for the entire year and really nobody else other than Steph Curry, just to get them where they got. I mean, it was a incredible individual effort on his part to get them there. And it's almost like a double-edged sword because for the NBA, you have the potential to not have one of Steph Curry or LeBron James in the playoff picture, but at the same time, for a one-game, win-it-all ratings monster, they're going to have everybody tuning in to watch it tonight. So,
yeah, every basketball fan in America is going to be watching it, just because it's like, you're stuck in a play-in game.
Yeah, man.
I love that stuff. I think they should keep it, but they're not. But I think this is a play.
Not after LeBron cried about it.
See, LeBron's crying, but he's whining about it, and then Curry says, "Oh man, I can't wait for this opportunity."
I like the idea of a one-game play-in game if you want to do the 8 and 9 seed. I think it is aggressive when you're throwing in the 7 seed in the mix too. But I think for the 8 and 9, I think that should be something that could stay and probably should stay. I think that would be fun because you get the 8th seed, it's almost like, you just got in anyway. It's almost kind of like bringing a little bit of that wild card aspect to what's made, baseball fun for that wild card play-in game.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we could see. I do think it is when you're talking the 7 seed, I mean, if you're in a loaded conference like the West has been in so many years, it's like to get that 7 seed, it takes everything for a team like Portland or Dallas or somebody like that to usually earn that spot. This year it's different because of the injuries to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They fall in that spot. So I do think that for that part of it, I can understand there being some frustration because you could win conceivably, 45, 46 games, in an 82-game schedule and still only end up the 7 seed in the West.
Yeah.
The East, we've seen, teams with losing records, end up in the playoffs or just about. So it's like, all right, it's a little less, on that end. But still, I still think it's exciting to have that one ratings monster kind of game.
Well, it's a shame that LeBron is whining because, to me, this is good for the league because at the end of the season, you had teams that were in, 10th, 11th place, still had something to play for. They still had a chance.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for the league. So LeBron is being, and for someone who's had the success that he's had, it's not like he's, Ernie Banks and played his whole career and never went to the finals. He's won
You've been to the finals like 8 or 9 times.
Yeah, it's like your birthright, and you've won a bunch of them. So, you know what?
Well, it's not enough.
For once,
he's chasing,
out of the 10 teams,
chasing the goat.
Out of the 10 teams,
do something that's good for the league.
Yeah, out of the 10 teams in each conference, in the East there were 3 teams with losing records, and in the West there was 1. And so, tonight it's the Lakers against Golden State, and Memphis against San Antonio. And nobody expects Memphis or San Antonio to get out of that. The so-called pundits believe it's going to be Golden State and Lakers in the
who are the 7 and 8 seeds anyway.
And here, let's be honest: the 7 and 8 seed, 99.9999% of the time in the NBA are gone after the first round, possibly second round, squeak one out. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Even with LeBron, and if these guys can get healthy and
he got
AD,
hurt in the season finale.
Yeah, and my
he limped off the court.
Yeah, my point is, you at least this gives you something. Like, hey, it's a ratings thing. The whole point of it is because there's 10 less games, so it made it fair. So if you're a couple games out of it in the 9th and 10th spot, you can't go, well, if there was 10 more games, we could have been a different story.
Right.
That's the whole point.
We're giving you a chance.
So if he was sitting at 9 or 10, would he be crying
Jim Carrey
as much?
kind of chance.
No, he'd be, this is great. Yeah, we've got a chance.
Well, it's exactly what the thing was last year.
Thing.
I know last year was unprecedented circumstances, but he literally had said those teams that were there, like Portland and Phoenix and all those guys who were there almost on the bubble, he literally suggested the format that we basically have now, and it was
he didn't care
exactly because he's at the top dog and he's probably thinking the same thing. Well, okay, great for these guys to get in and be the 8th seed. We're gonna sweep them out of here anyway. It doesn't matter for us because we're sitting on top. And then obviously roles reversed. He feels a little different about it. I think it's a tough situation again for the NBA because you're looking at it from the perspective of twofold. You have the opportunity to have these rating monster games, but then also the opportunity to have a marquee superstar player on the outside looking in because, well, we know at least in a 7-game series, 9 times out of 10, the better team wins. In March Madness or in the NFL or in any other kind of 1-game playoff scenario, that is not always true. And so, again, it becomes a tougher environment because most sports fans, when they look at an entire year, there's the people who want to see the best team of the year be the ones hoisting the trophy because of the accomplishments that it took from regular season through playoffs. There could be an opportunity that's not the case if 1-game kind of instances happen. So it's like twofold. There's 2 different ways to look at it from that. And for the NBA, it would be a nightmare scenario if, again, not saying it's going to happen, but nightmare if, Steph and LeBron are out and, San Antonio's back in, who basically every time, even when San Antonio had Tim Duncan and Kawhi and superstar players, I mean, look at the NBA ratings. They were like in the toilet compared to when bigger market teams or other teams with bigger superstars made it there. It's like those are the scenarios that are playing off in their head and probably the reason why this will not be a thing going forward because they're worried that could be a possibility.
All right, well, let's talk about the Sixers. I think to me, and you guys can maybe we can start off with this little analogy. We know what Joel Embiid is going to do. We pretty much know what Tobias Harris is going to do. I think we already know what Seth Curry is going to kind of do. I think the biggest thing here is, and maybe not with Seth Curry, but the biggest thing here is how are the Sixers going to maximize the things that Ben Simmons does well, which is he's making all the first-team all-defense already. He is so he's a lockdown defender across the board, no matter who they're playing. But obviously, it's been talked about ad nauseum. The guy doesn't shoot threes for whatever reason, and doesn't take big outside shots. But he's a ferocious dunker. He's a rim guy. He can he can drive to the hoop. One thing is unexcusable is he's a crappy free throw shooter. He finished the season, I think, around 61%. That's going to be a liability down the stretch because you have to have him on the court. Is it going to be Hackabend? If you have some of these scenarios, especially against a team like Brooklyn, that's the biggest thing with them. So how do they, they have four other guys there who can shoot, plus Shake Milton coming off the bench, who can shoot the three. He can shoot. How does Doc Rivers engineer it so that Ben Simmons can stay out of those scenarios where other teams are exploiting him, his lack of a willingness to shoot the three or shoot from outside, and still make him effective driving to the basket, dishing out, getting spacing so that Seth Curry and Danny Green has got to hit those threes. If Danny Green, I think, is one of the biggest keys to this thing. He was horrible the first half of the season, got his legs at the All-Star break, and he started draining shots all over the place. And I think he's such key to this team's success if he's hitting those threes. And there are three guys on the bench I think are going to be Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, and George Hill. And then you'll have a little bit of Furkan Korkmaz, but those are going to be their subs. What do you think?
I mean, I think that rotation is pretty definite. I mean,
and Dwight Howard's going to be
Howard, and hopefully
he's going to play his 8 or 9 minutes to spell Joel.
Yeah, hopefully he won't foul out or get suspended or anything toward the playoffs.
But he's the best. He's the best backup center.
No, listen, getting
Moses was here and his backup.
Getting him in here was one of the best things they did, especially getting him on after winning in LA.
Oh yeah,
finally getting that monkey off his back that he hasn't been able to do with his career. He's got to play a little smarter, less. I mean, he's very cerebral in the sense he likes to get under people's skin, but he also can get that turned around on him very easily.
But he's also been deep into the playoffs a number of times and won one last time. So, I mean, he's not going to do I think he's going to be under control. But go ahead.
But, I mean, this whole time, this play-in tournament is very clutch for the Sixers because if this was a normal season, everybody would be playing up to another 10 games, and then the playoffs would start a few days later. This has been clutch for them because they're having time to actually practice, work on their transition defense, which is a big thing. Because I think Matisse Thybulle is going to be that bit of a wild card
Andre Iguodala
that people aren't going to talk about. He's one of the better defenders in the league, and we talk about Ben being a great defensive player and all that stuff. I think part of the game plan will be you will see. I think right now they're working on it, and I think Doc Rivers is in Ben's face going, "You're going to be shooting. You're going to be taking a couple jumpers, no threes or anything like that." And I wouldn't mind, especially in the first round or two, and if they're really ahead of the team or something like that, let them take a couple, make them honest. Like if he could make a couple and make them all. Or not all, but
I still remember a couple years ago.
Put them on film.
They get people going. All right.
Yeah,
you got
to
respect.
Make them think about it.
But even that, just take it a 20-footer, something like that would go a long way. And I hope, like right now, they're leaving him on the line, and just say keep shooting this ball until this is muscle memory, pal.
But it's funny. A couple of years ago, when Brown was still a coach, there was a game when it was a PAX, Wells Fargo Center. The Sixers are up like 30 deep into the fourth quarter, and he's still in the game. Bringing the ball up, and nobody guards him at all. I mean, not even at all. And he's right at the three-point line. The entire place is roaring. You would have thought it was the, where you win the free shakes or the free, burger.
Frosties?
The Frosties or whatever. That's the
Dwight Howard's
anticipation to
favorite
this thing.
Yeah.
Take a stinking three. He's standing there. They're letting you. The other team has just said, we're not going to guard you. There was nobody anywhere near him. It was like in warm-ups, and he wouldn't take the three. He passed the ball off, and the place booed him. I mean, really booed him. Like come on. So, every once he's taken a couple of threes, made some threes. He can make them. So I don't know. You say coach is going to get him to do it. He swears he doesn't care.
Well, this is the best. Think about
Well,
it. We
well,
all
that's-
say that this
that's
is
the
what
That's
only-
to do the media thing. That's to get the people stop asking the question.
But I mean, that's the only alternative because it's not. I mean, all right, next year if he is shooting 75% from the line, nobody
Nobody's
cares
gonna
if he
care.
ever takes a three.
The biggest thing is his free
but
throw
he's
shooting.
not
is
going to
abysmal.
suddenly. I don't think he's going to suddenly start shooting 75-80% from the
But there
line in
have
the
been
playoffs.
players that have been in the league 5-6 years. Then
No,
just
but I mean in the
changed
playoffs,
and-
if he
yeah.
works on it all summer, maybe he
Yeah.
can improve his foul shooting. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Probably not going to happen.
I want to
in
see
the
an
playoffs.
aggressive Ben that we've seen in the playoffs before. Not the one that takes everybody getting mad at him to play that well. Like, and
go
here's my
to the
thing is-
rack. Go to the rack. If you're not going to shoot, go to the rack.
But even here's the other part. Even if he goes to the line a lot, and he's like 75, he's not shooting well as he has been, not shooting well. But you're going to get guys fouling out. You're going to cut down rotation. You're guys. They're going to have to pull some of their starters early in the early mid-third quarter because they're going to have 4 or 5 fouls under their belt, and they're going to have to hold them off and allow them to do it. So even if he isn't draw the foul, take it to the hole, do your job, and draw the foul. And that's the only way you're going to work on foul free throws. I don't care. We've seen him shoot threes on Instagram until we're blue in the face, and it doesn't happen. So
no more open gym, stroking. Like, we need to see you do it in game. Like, that's the difference maker. And I think that's the thing that's going to get this team over the hump, right? We know the team can play defense. They were the second-ranked defense in the league. They were the 13th ranked offense. That's a big gap to make up. If you want to win an NBA championship, defense is important. They say defense wins championships. Well, hey, you can't just win scoring just below 100 points. You got to get into the 110s and the 120s. You have to be able to show that's the case. When that three-point shooting with Danny Green and Seth Curry and those other guys goes a little cold, the difference is at the line. The difference is you make that up with that aggressive play. And so that's the thing when you're looking at with Ben Simmons. It's like, yeah, I would love to see him shoot more shots. We're probably not going to see them, like Rock said, change that entire philosophy from what we saw the regular season just come playoff time and try to, go completely off the rails. It's definitely something he's got to work on in the offseason, hopefully bring into next year, and then we can get some better improvement on that end. But the one thing that we can see and we have seen is what Al was saying, which was aggressive Ben. It's not, we see it all the time, but we need to see more of it. And if at least he can get those guys, he said, in foul trouble, because not only does that help you get those guys off the court, but that generates more team fouls. So now it's not just when Ben Simmons gets fouled. Now it's when Seth Curry gets a little reach-in tap. He's going to the line for 2. Much better free throw shooter. Danny Green, those other guys. All of that adds up in a way where if you can at least win the battles of the free throws, you can make up for some of those cold shootings and some of the, lackadaisical half-court offense that we've seen from this team, all year long. The defense has got to stay. It's got to stay at an elite level, and the offense has just got to pick it up. Doesn't have to be the number one offense, but if we can see it be the fifth best, the sixth best in the playoffs, we might at least see them hoist that championship.
Aren't the Sixers like one of the weirdest teams in this regard with the free throw shooting? And Joel Embiid, you have one of the greatest free throw shooters in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is golden at the free throw line in every conceivable situation.
He gets fouled like crazy too.
Right, and he the referees love to call fouls on him,
Mm-hmm.
and he makes them. He makes them at crazy rates. He'll go 14 for 14 at some 15 for 15 at times,
Mm-hmm.
and then Ben Simmons, 61%.
Yeah,
and he's a point guard.
But do you know what? Like I said, take that 61%, get what you can get for it, and like you said, get your team fouls up. Get front.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about getting under guys' skin. If you think about it, it's bad enough that if you're an opposing team, and we always say this when we play the superstars and other teams, they're going to get theirs. That's the term. They're going to get theirs. They're going to get theirs. So they know that Joel is going to get his. But if Ben's getting his and Joel, and the rest, and then Tobias and the rest of them are all just icing on top, this could be, I don't want to say smooth sailing, but at least to the conference finals, it could make it could make things very interesting.
And he's a point guard who averages 14, a little over 14 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
He averages 7.2 rebounds a game, which is incredible for a point guard, and just about 7 assists a game. And so he is he's an unusual player. But the biggest thing with him, I don't care, but he needs to somehow find a free throw, and we'll see if he does. Anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. And I want to thank you guys, Matt Santoleri, Rock Hoffman. Do want to thank Dr. Sean McMillan for being here, Ray Lowry, and did I forget anybody? I don't think so. Al
Don't think so.
Safiri.
Yeah, I'm here.
Al
Come
Safiri,
here.
our producer, of course. And my name is Al Thompson. And until next time, we'll see you.